it's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.
Welcome to the Worldview 2 Washington Report for this evening, July 22nd, 2025. Joining me as always is my co-host, Jim Paff. He's with theconservativecaucus.org, theconservativecaucus.org. President Trump, he has something to say from the Oval Office tonight that you guys might find interesting. Here we go. Let's see what he has to say. Here we go. President Donald J. Trump from the gold-encrusted Oval Office.
Mr. President, I want to follow up on the housing question.
Yeah.
We've got no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. How important is it we have no tax on home sales, capital gains, to unleash the housing market?
Well, we're thinking about that, but would also unleash it just by lowering the interest rates. If the Fed would lower the rates, we wouldn't even have to do that. But we are thinking about no tax on capital gains on houses.
Wow. Now, that'd be huge. But the question is, will there be a cap on it? Because we got caps on all these other things that sound good, but there are caps on them. So is this going to be a real deal, or is there going to be a cap? I mean, I'll take any tax break they want to give me. The bigger, the better. I mean, I really am for abolishing the IRS, progressive income tax, but let's not do a halfway measure here. What are your thoughts?
Home ownership, right? I mean, all capital gains should go away. Every bit of investment that people do in that benefits, well, any investment that anyone does should not be taxed when you make a gain on it, whether you have stocks that you invest in. And I don't care what your income is, you shouldn't pay a capital gains tax. Capital gains tax is it's as bad as a property tax. Because what happens is if you own something, the government's going to get a cut of it. It's kind of like also an inheritance tax.
Yep.
It's a multiple stream of income for the government.
And you're taxing people twice.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
An inheritance tax, a parent has already paid. The parent has already paid taxes. That was what was left over. They invested into real estate or business or whatever. They should not be taxed on that again.
No, it's absolutely right. I mean, there's so much double taxation in federal, state, and local governments. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, you earn money in some form or fashion. Now, people are going to say, because some people do earn most of their money through how they build and grow a business, major corporations that where people have stock options. I mean, those options are growing, but they were given to them as part of their income, and it actually bypasses the income tax, those rewards that they get for doing well in a business. But that having said, the thing that runs an economy is free markets and the free flow of investment capital. That's why that our system of economics is called capitalism, right? Because it's the use of capital for the growing of income and growing of business. And there's been so much talk lately that I hear, and I get asked these questions a lot about the income tax. I had a very long discussion about, and just as we did the other night, I had someone ask me today about, the Federal Reserve and the income tax and all that happened in 1913. I mean, that was the beginning, promoted by a rank socialist and rank socialist politicians, Woodrow Wilson and others. That was the beginning of the downfall of the amazing American economy. We've had a great economy. I'm not trying to say it hasn't been great, but there's no fairness in taking away people's productive activity and giving it to other people. We use our productive activity in taxes to take care of basic things: police services, fire services, a military and the federal government, court systems that allow us to adjudicate disputes. That's roughly the only thing that government should ever be for. And so all we're doing is just giving people back more of what they already own and earn themselves. So get rid of the capital gains tax entirely. But hey, we can start with houses. I mean, that would help a lot of people. And if you don't put a cap on that, I'll be really excited about it.
Yeah, indeed. Here we go. President Trump also from the Oval Office today. Here we go.
If you look at those papers, they have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was them too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one look, he's guilty. It's not a question. I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like it. And we have all of the documents. And from what Tulsi told me, she's got thousands of additional documents coming. So President Obama, it was his concept, his idea, but he also got it from crooked Hillary Clinton. Crooked is a $3 bill.
crooked Hillary Clinton. He just called President Barack Hussein Obama treasonous. And he's right. Did I read somewhere today that Obama put out a statement today? Did you read that?
I didn't read it, but I think I heard that he had. But let me say this. There was a time 15, 20 years ago that to say anything about a former president like that would have seemed crazy. Why would it be that? It's just total political going after your enemies. The first step of getting to where Donald Trump said what he said was what Barack Obama did and what the Biden administration did thereafter to go after Donald Trump. That if someone is sitting back all up in arms about him saying this related to Barack Obama, well, what did they just do to Donald Trump for a long period of time? It's not just that they set the precedent. In fact, that's not really what's going on here. This is a substantive argument on Donald Trump's part to surmise treason out of Barack Obama. And because the whole government's been going after him and literally going after us for every bit of 2 decades, every bit of a decade. Now, more specifically to the point, we know that Barack Obama was talking about this very issue with John Brennan as early as July of 2016 related to Donald Trump. They were going after him through the government to try to rig the election for Hillary through these efforts. We fast forward, obviously, to a December meeting that was revealed in these documents that Tulsi Gabbard released. And we already knew about I've talked about this before, a January 20th meeting, 2017, just prior to Donald Trump's inauguration that morning. Inaugurations happened at noon, and they were finalizing the details of this plan, Crossfire Hurricane and other things, to take down Donald Trump. These people were conspiring. It is at least up to treason. There are other criminal charges that could be brought. But we need to extract ourselves from everything that just happened with Donald Trump. I've mentioned it many times before. If he got elected, I felt in 2016, he was going to turn over the trash cans and show the real problems in Washington, D.C. This is it. The soft underbelly of our American system that has been really close to destroying us, certainly through the Trump era, is what we call a deep state activity, where you've got government actors affecting our political process. We know this from Project Mockingbird with the CIA working with media as far back as the 1950s and 60s. That is a deep state attempt to manipulate public opinion for the benefit of some government actor. But this is even worse than that. You know, it's so funny. Historically, we're going to look back at Watergate and say, wow, like that was a slap on the wrist thing. What are you talking about? That's nothing compared to what is being revealed here. More apparently is coming. But here's the last thing I'll say on this. Donald Trump has to hit at these targets. There must be indictments now. They must be able to come up with the goods through the Department of Justice to bring about what this started, because if not, we could have much worse problems. There's a lot at stake here. Donald Trump knows that, and that's why he's saying what he is saying. We need to win this battle. Somebody needs to go to jail, and quite a few people, so that we can extract this problem, or at least as much of it as possible, from our government system, so we can at least have some decades in the future of liberty. Otherwise, when Donald Trump goes off the scene, all liberty's gone bye-bye. We will be just like some third world Uganda or whatever.
Yep, and that's, of course, one of my big concerns. All right, so Obama's office put out a statement today. Here we go, quote, out of respect for the office of the presidency, our office does not normally dignify the constant nonsense and misinformation flowing out of this White House with a response. But these allegations are outrageous enough to merit one. These bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes. These findings were affirmed in a 2020 report by a bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee led by then Chairman Marco Rubio, in quote, office of President Barack Hussein Obama. Now, interesting how they spliced that. Was Russia working in any way to influence our elections? I would say you could find some place where they were doing that. I mean, A lot of countries do that. We do it. They do it. Whether you want to call it through fifth generation warfare, which is propaganda, whatever. Okay. But notice how he wants to concentrate only on Russia instead of saying there's no evidence that my administration weaponized this to undercut a sitting president. This is a total, talk about distraction. This press release, this press statement is a total distraction, and having you concentrate only on Russia, and maybe, and Marco Rubio validated this. This is a distraction. He never said. It's not what was said, it's what's not said. He didn't say it's a lie that my administration knowingly was involved in pushing a narrative to the media and in our administration about Donald Trump and Russia that we knew was not true, that we weaponized the government against him, surveilled him, broke rules and FISA rules. He never denies any of that, now does he?
Not the least. And this response is a perfect example of how politicians do the best job that they can to not address what is the key issue and make it sound like they are. Yep. So the Russia thing, everyone admits, I think, as you just said, that Russia made some attempt. We don't even know precisely what it is because those documents aren't made public, but they certainly weren't effective. We know that Russia is not the issue at all. So what happened under the Obama administration was that and let's just recount this, Hillary Clinton put together a fake dossier, knowing that she was going herself to be claimed as being influenced by Russia, just merely influenced by Russia. She was going through her email problems, remember, where her classified emails were on some server in downtown Denver and obviously subject to, review and being hacked into and violating the law, which she absolutely did. That initiated an attempt to turn the harm that she was causing onto Donald Trump to make it seem like he was doing it. Another standard political ploy. It all started with that. They falsified the dossier. They made it seem like Donald Trump was the bad actor. It was all a lie. We all know it is a lie right now. And listen, if this gets into the courts And they have to get a grand jury in Florida to do this, to work on this conspiracy theory, this conspiracy idea that they're putting together in the DOJ, which I think is solid. They've got to get indictments, and they have to adjudicate this in court faithfully. I'll tell you one thing that gives me confidence. Todd Blanche is the DAG. He's the Deputy Attorney General. That guy is a very effective lawyer.
All right, hold right there. We're going to take a break, come back with more Worldview Tube's Washington Report.
I'll tell you one little quick story. We had a Worldview weekend client who lived in California, lost their house. Very wealthy guy. He didn't use Bitcoin. He came over here, drove to Arizona with $286,000 worth of his gold because he had no money and no house available. His bank was shut down because he couldn't have access to his bank account.
Was this during the fire? Was this during the fires?
During the fire. Didn't have his driver's license. He lost it. The state wouldn't give him a new license because he had no active mailing address. Real mess. So he came to Arizona to buy a house. He's moving everything over. He said, the only thing I got in my possession that I can get liquid with right now is my gold. I gave him a check for $286,000, and guess what? I didn't need his social, his driver's license. Sort of smiled, and I said, I know you and Brandon talked about how this worked, but boy, this is great. I feel good. I got my money. Nobody bothered me, and I'm protected, and it's private.
Just simply go to worldviewgold.com, fill out the form, worldviewgold.com.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab. And here, you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
All right. Scott Adams. I don't know a lot about the guy. I think he has a terminal diagnosis, if I think of the same guy. Isn't he the guy that does the cartoon, Scott Adams?
Gilbert. Yeah.
Gilbert?
Yeah.
And the poor guy's kind of announced that he may not be around very long, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he said that. Yeah.
So everybody should be praying for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's a clip, though, he just put out about Obama.
I'm going to say, I've said it before, but I'll reiterate. For most of my adult life, I would have said, no, you don't want to go prosecuting the last administration. Because once you start doing that, everybody's going to be trying to prosecute the last administration. Except that's what the Democrats did to Trump. When he was out of office, they went after him. And to which I say, well, they took the gloves off. They changed the rules. So I believe that they have given Trump a free punch, meaning that if he aggressively tried to jail the people from a prior administration, I feel like he's totally ethically, morally, legally, politically, he's exactly where he needs to be. Would it be a gigantic problem to put Barack Obama in jail? Yeah. It would almost certainly cause something close to a civil war. Wouldn't you think? I mean, first of all, I don't think it'll happen. But if you can imagine that there was something illegal about trying to overthrow the government, which is what they apparently did, according to the documents we have. If you saw a perp walk in which Brennan and, I don't know, Kerry and Obama were all taken away in handcuffs and then tried and convicted and put in jail, you don't think that would cause an actual civil war? It would. And here's what I would say about that. Trump didn't start the war. Trump did not start this war. The war is happening with or without Trump doing anything. the war is raging because they would jail Trump and any of his supporters in a heartbeat, and they're probably just waiting to get power back so they can try it again. So, given that all the gloves are off, all the rules have already been broken, and the precedent has been set, I'm 100% in favor of jailing any of these named people if the justice system decides that that's the right answer. Only if there's the case is made. But yeah, I'll take whatever blowback. I will accept the high risk of a civil war. Absolutely. Yeah, we can't live in a country where you can just make up a hoax and put somebody in jail and take them out of the race. Nope.
Well, and we also can't have a shadow government that can do that, and there are no consequences. There's a two-tiered legal system, and the IRS and all these other agencies, the FBI, can all just run amok and enslave us as they do. And at that point, I am of the strong conviction that if President Trump cannot transform the country, we are left with no choice but to employ our leaders to secede from the Union. Here in Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, goodbye. The federal government, you are all corrupt. Almost all of you are corrupt, or on the take, or under blackmail. We're done with you. There's nothing good comes there. This was a voluntary agreement. We entered into it. You have breached the agreement. We're leaving. And aside from a civil war, after Trump, if he cannot fix it, which I'm not sure he's going to be able to, but I don't see other than a civil war changing anything. Not that I want a civil war, but we ought to, here in the state of Tennessee, be able to vote to get it on the ballot to secede from the Union. And if we choose to do that, become a sovereign nation, we're already supposed to be a sovereign state. But if we choose to do that, the federal government should not come and try to use the troops to stop that from happening. I'm a big fan of Andrew Jackson, but he was wrong when he threatened to do that with, South Carolina?
Yeah.
Obviously, the Civil War was about a lot of these things too, right? South Carolina, I think it was South Carolina and a couple others were like, we're out of here. And then they crossed Virginia, came running through Virginia to go after them. That's when Robert E. Lee said, whoa, I can't be a part of this. And of course, he took up with the Confederates. So we have a problem here, and then we have let the federal government declare war on us for simply trying to hold them to account for what the original agreement was. So if President Trump cannot stop this, if he does not able to fix it, then if we start a campaign in Tennessee or someone starts a campaign in Alabama to secede from the Union, we ought to be able to do that without the federal government sending their troops in here.
If it were to come to a civil war, and I don't necessarily agree with Scott Adams on this. I think there's a risk of it. I think we saw that risk lift its ugly head earlier this year with the riots in LA that were funded by government. Let's just keep in mind. So there is some risk. And it always comes from the left, not from the right. The greater risk is there. If it is there, it will be of a similar sort to our first Civil War, if we have a second one. And that is this. Democrats had a radical system that they supported that is antithetical to truth, that is antithetical to human rights, that they wanted to assert, and in the case of the 1860s, slavery. The Civil War was about slavery. It wasn't about states' rights and stuff. They asserted states' rights. They wanted to maintain an evil institution. Now, Democrats, again, right now, if it were to come to this, do want to maintain an evil institution. And in this case, it's roughly described as the deep state. There are other aspects of it as well. As I've been saying a lot lately, the Democrat Party is not an American party. It's not. It used to be. I'll grant that, even in my disagreement with them, say, in JFK's time. Like, JFK was a liberal, and I disagree with a lot of his policies. Some of it I like, and he was a patriot, and he did love the country. But see, that did exist in the Democrat Party roughly at that time. But nonetheless, the history of the Democrat Party is always against what America was founded to become. They have had a few periods like I've described where it was not as bad, but the Democrat Party's always been a fundamental problem. They're getting worse. They want to assert an un-American idea, a roughly socialist, communist idea of economy. They want a censorship regime. They literally created a censorship regime during the Biden administration. The deep state did it somewhat in 2020 leading into the Biden administration. And they want that to become the law of the land. They're still talking about it. John Kerry was just talking about it recently, shutting down opposing opinions on climate change. We've still heard others talking about that, people in the media. They want to do what was happening during the Biden administration. That was just a taste of what is to come if they are successful. Barack Obama, if they can convince a grand jury, John Brennan, James Clapper, every one of them, Susan Rice, all of them, if they can convince a grand jury to indict, it must happen. And this is where Scott Adams is right on target. There's risk. It could be a real problem. But the reality is that we must extract this from our our health system.
Because from risk, with risk comes great reward.
Correct.
The great reward would be restoring law, order, and a constitutional system.
That's right. But by the way, if what Scott Adams predicts is true, it's not going to be like the first Civil War where states seceding from the Union. That's not what it's going to be. What it's going to be is, again, just like happened earlier this year, a war on the streets.
Right.
There's a lot of money in Democrat politics, again, that comes through government, that comes through actors like George Soros, Pierre Omidyar, that guy whose name I just forgot, you'll remember in China, Neil, who was the guy that was behind the LA riots. Anyway, there's a lot of money out there to fund this, both privately, and these people have money in their coffers from state governments. They will use that if they were to choose this course of action. They would use that to cause riots in the street. They would make January 6th look like a demonstration where someone fell down and got stampeded upon or something like that. It would be really big, but it would be of that sort. It's a risk. I hope it doesn't happen, but politically it will be very much like that. And politically, it'll be a political civil war for sure. You're going to have screaming and hue and cry against Donald Trump for doing this. I don't think the American people are going to stand with the Democrats on this one. I think the Democrats would fail if Donald Trump's aggressive on it. But that's the key. He has to be aggressive and purposeful. Pam Bondi has to make this happen. She needs to have the right lawyers adjudicating this out of the DOJ. The FBI has got to do the right work to make sure all of the support investigatively is behind it, and you better be determined to win. It better be all about winning. It's about winning. You know, Vince Lombardi talked about football, and when he said winning is number one, and people pushed back on him, he says, but that's what they pay us to do. They pay us to win games, and and the goal is to win the championship at the end of the year. We've been playing this game and have had a lot of wins through the election last year, and some slightly before that, with Donald Trump ultimately becoming elected. Now it's time for the championship game, and you got to win this one, or else you lose the whole season, so to speak. This is really critical time in American history. I think we can get past this potentially, but what I always concern myself with is government actors always fail us at the end of the day. I have a lot of trust and belief in Donald Trump, but there are still so many things at play that could really make this a much worse disaster in the negative than in the positive,
Yep.
a good result.
Comment on this real quick. House ending session early as Republicans clash over Epstein vote.
Well, I mean, as I've said, Republicans in Congress are the weak part of the Trump agenda. I mean, these people don't want to deal with that. And you can argue whether you need to or not. I maintain that the whole game is not the Epstein files. It's exactly what we've already been talking about. That said, we need transparency. It's kind of a weak thing, have an up or down vote. Tell me where it goes.
TheConservativeCaucus.org. TheConservativeCaucus.org. Thank you, Jim, as always.
Thanks. Good
Check
to see
out
you.
his site there, folks, theconservativecaucus.org. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Okay, if you appreciate what we're doing here, we need your support. Our sponsors are at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Okay, we also have coming up, of course, Worldview Report, Brandon House Live. Tonight, my guest, Dr. Andy Woods, Trevor Loudon, among others. You don't want to miss out. Thanks for being with us, and thanks for watching. Take care. Tonight on the Worldview Report, drama unfolds at Health and Human Services as Secretary RFK Jr. fires 2 top aides.